right. I'm Luke Godfrey.
I'm Nicole Dower.
And today we're doing the home buying process.
Woohoo!
Step one, locate, contact, initiate contact.
Realtor.
We are the professionals at this. This is what we do all day long. And we're going to know more about what's going on with the market than anybody else is. That's our job to know. And then step number two,
we're going to direct you to contact a lender. The lender's going to be able to identify the best programs for you, and it's going to be a local lender, someone who knows the local market.
Yep, and that really helps when you're writing offers in a really competitive market to have a local lender that the other realtors in the area are going to know and are going to trust.
Exactly. And we have some criteria for lenders that you might not have, such as we need someone who's going to be, available at a moment's notice. Someone who's, if they're in the middle of a meeting, they're going to reach out and tell us, hey, I'll get back to you in 20 minutes or whatever it is. So leave that to us.
It's a huge difference when you're using somebody that you go to a meeting with all the time, that you meet with and talk to all the time, versus somebody who's somebody who doesn't necessarily focus on the home buying process. So a lot of times when we're dealing with people that are online lenders or we're dealing with bigger companies, we're not going to get that level of performance, and neither are you, is the issue.
Yeah. Once you connect with us and you connect with a lender, then we're going to start doing sort of a home buying consultation with you. And what that looks like is we have to identify what neighborhoods or the target market you're looking in, and home features that are important to you. Maybe number of bedrooms you have to have.
Number of bedrooms. And then the other thing is, as you're working with the lender, you are going to figure out what your price range is. So we're going to figure out how feasible it is and if it's even doable. So there are times where first-time home buyers may have a thought in their mind that, I'm going to be able to buy in this neighborhood at this price. And you realize, no, that's not the case. And we may need to adjust which neighborhoods we're looking in, maybe even which cities, and we may need to adjust the size of the house or condo or whatever.
Yeah. And then after we get a really good idea of what you're looking for, what your must-have list is, and what maybe would be a nice feature for you, you'd like to have 2.5 bathrooms, but you could get by with 2, or you want 4 bedrooms, but you could do 3 bedrooms and a bonus space for an office. Then we start with the home search. Now, usually the way things go now, people are hopping on and doing their home search first, which is fine because you've got the power of the internet and there's lots of online platforms. But after we get through the first few pieces, the contact your realtor, contact a lender, find out what you qualify for, then the real home search will happen. Yeah.
And another thing I was just thinking about is if you have multiple people that will be involved in purchasing this, as many people do, if you're married or have a partner or whatever, and you're going to be pooling your money, you need to be on the same page as far as what are must-haves for both of you. So a lot of times that's actually one of the first steps as a realtor that I'll walk people through is, okay, what do you both need? What is a requirement for both of you? And make sure, the people that are purchasing are on the same page to start.
Yeah. Say, I want a large yard, but I don't do the yard work. You kind of have to talk that through, right?
Exactly.
After that, after we search the MLS, maybe take you on a couple home showings, tour properties, then finally you get to the point where you're going to get to write an offer.
And writing an offer is an involved process. You're talking about it's 16 pages, but again, that's why you have a professional with you that is going to walk you through it and explain to you what you're signing up for, what your options are, explain how it looks to a seller depending on how you phrase things and what you ask for. So again, that's a huge benefit. We use our forms, our California Association of Realtor forms, to submit our offers. And we are the experts on that because we work with them all the time.
And that's when a lot of the liability comes in too. We have errors and omissions insurance that is going to cover if there's anything that comes up that maybe, would be important to a buyer or seller in this process. So you really want to work with a professional. And then you have to get your offer actually accepted. sometimes right now in our current market, we may be submitting an offer and up against 5, 6, 10 other offers. I think last week I heard about a property with 41 offers on the table.
Yep. It's super competitive right now. And yeah, it's, that is the challenge, is getting your offer accepted. And that's why, again, working with a professional that knows the market. And the other thing is, has a relationship with the listing lender or the listing agent, because a lot of times that'll make a big difference if we can actually call them and know them. Or even sometimes I've known the sellers in situations, and that will help my buyers. If I personally know the seller,
it can help greatly.
It can help with getting your offer accepted. So
yeah,
that's a big challenge right now, but this is about the process. So once you get that offer accepted, then we start the actual process.
The next steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important that, human nature is to want to work with people in your network. And that's what we do. We network with other realtors in the area. Both Luke and I were born and raised in this area. So it's good to have someone on your side who is that aware of the market.
Yeah, who is a local, who knows the locals. I mean, it definitely helps for sure.
So once you get accepted, once your offer is the last one, then you're in contract. You put your earnest money submitted through, you would submit it through your real estate agent, and it would be picked up by title. And your earnest money deposit is 1% of your purchase price in most cases.
In Solano County, that's typically what it is. So it depends on the county, depends on the common practice. But here in Solano County, yeah, it's typically around 1%. And we tend to try and keep it below $10,000, because if you go above $10,000 and there's anything that comes up, you have to go to full-blown court as opposed to small claims court. So yeah, so we like to keep it below 10,000 so we can go to small claims court if it gets to that point.
So simultaneously with your earnest money deposit, once that's submitted, that's when we start opening up for inspections, appraisal if it's required by your lender, and the lender starts working their magic on the conditions that may be part of your loan.
Yeah, and your responsibility as the buyer at this point is to begin your investigation process. So that's scheduling your inspections, talk to your realtor. Again, we always, at the very least, recommend home inspection and pest inspection. And depending on the property, there may be other ones that we recommend. And then the seller is going to start working on their disclosures if they haven't already given them to you. And you need to start reading through all of those disclosures. So this will be telling you everything that there is to know about the property. And this is your chance to ask questions that you may have about the property and about what the seller's experience has been there.
Mm-hmm. And this is also when everything starts on a timeline. So timelines are initiated once both parties have signed. If there's any counter offers going on, we're kind of talking about a really straightforward home buying scenario. There's a million variables that can happen between the beginning and the end. But in the most straightforward world, you have timelines. So to complete your request for repair, Luke, we have to do that within 17 days.
17 days, yeah. So your inspection contingency is 17 days. And then typically we like to try and get our request for repair in before that 17-day window, in case there's any further inspection that needs to happen. And this is a negotiation point between the buyers and sellers. The sellers don't have an obligation to fix anything unless an appraiser calls it and makes it a condition of approving the loan that a certain repair has to happen. I've had that happen many times. But if it's not an appraisal called condition, then it's completely negotiable between the seller and the buyer. The buyer is going to typically ask for some sort of concession depending on what they find, and then it's up to the seller to determine if they want to offer a credit to the buyer, if it's something significant, or if they want to repair it themselves or pay somebody to repair it themselves, or if they don't want to go there at all. And like in this market right now, a lot of times sellers aren't giving any sort of concessions for inspections because they don't have to. They can just go to their backup offer. So.
Exactly. Something you need to know as a first-time home buyer is your lender is going to determine some of what you can and cannot allow. So you can't say, I really want that property. I'm just going to waive, the need to have a certain thing fixed. Well, it's not necessarily up to you. It's kind of, it's on the table to be discussed with your lender as well.
Yeah, and it's something that a lot of folks, I think, don't quite grasp when you go into this process is you're not the actual buyer. The bank is, right? So the bank is actually buying the property. They're the ones that are investing the big amount of money. So they have an appraiser that comes out and assures that the value is there so that you're not overpaying. So that's where the appraisal comes in, and that's really the purpose of the appraisal. And if there's something that is a significant issue, the appraiser's job is to identify that and ensure that it's something that is fixable so that the value's there for the bank.
Absolutely. Because ultimately the bank has more skin in the game than you at this point.
Absolutely.
So you have a timeline to remove your inspection contingency, to remove your appraisal contingency, if it's required by your bank, and to remove your loan contingency. And at any point along the way, if you neglect to do this by the timeline stated, the seller can pretty much call you on it and say, hey, do this. They can give you a notice to perform, or they can just verbally tell you, hey, we're ready to move on with another buyer if you don't get the ball rolling on this. So
yeah, and the standard time frames for the notice to perform is 2 days. So you can change that. It's part of the negotiation process in the contract. You can shorten that or extend it. Most people leave it at 2 days. So what that means is if you hit your, let's say your inspection contingency at 17 days and you don't remove your inspection contingency, they can give you a notice to perform, and then you have 2 days from when they give you that notice to perform to remove that contingency, or they have the right to cancel the contract. How this whole thing is built is basically both sides have committed to working through this process, and there's certain checkpoints that have to get hit to show that you are progressing. So if you don't hit those timelines, the seller has the right to give you a notice saying, hey, this is what you need to do. And if you don't do it, then they can cancel and they can move to another buyer.
Yeah. The timelines, if you're missing the timelines, it's like breaching contract. So you have to be completely very aware that you need to be in communication with your realtor, and your realtor will guide you through this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we give a timeline as soon as we get into contract. Our transaction coordinator gives us the timeline, and then we work to that. And you'll get a copy of that as a buyer, and we'll have dates on there, and we'll check through it as we proceed so that you know exactly where you're at and what the next step is.
So then as we're getting closer to the end and we get through this whole timeline, both parties need to do a visual inspection of the property. And the agents are going to take care of that for you. And you're going to agree to the inspection because it's actually your responsibility.
Yeah. So the buyer's responsibility, it's called verification of property. You have 5 days before you close. Within that window, up to as far out as 5 days before you close, you have to go to the property and ensure that it's in the condition that you agreed upon. So for instance, what's happened is, like, let's say it's a 30-day close and they let the lawn die. Well, you'd want to go inspect it and make sure that the lawn hasn't died, right? So if it did die, then you'd call that out on the verification of property, and you maybe do some sort of compensation for that. So that's really the point, is to go look at the property and make sure it's still good, because it's a lot of times it's been 2 weeks since you looked at the property.
Yeah, and they've been moving out. So there could be damage to the drywall, there could be nail holes, something could have, somebody moved a piece of furniture and you realize the carpet is destroyed underneath.
Yeah. Or, you may have negotiated that you were going to keep the refrigerator, and the refrigerator may be gone. Like, that would be a big deal, right? So in the contract, if it said you needed the appliances, you agreed to leave the appliances, and then they don't leave them, that'd be something you'd have on your VP, your verification of property.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So then the signing process. So, once you get towards the end of the process, so once the loan's approved, the paperwork goes from the lender to the title company, and then the title title office is going to coordinate to sign the paperwork. So through this entire process, everything can be done digitally until you get to this step. The counties still require a wet signature on the deed. And while we're doing that, the lenders are requiring everything to be signed wet as well. So you have to, typically during non-COVID times, we'd meet at the office, at the actual title office, and they run you through the whole paperwork. What's been happening since we started, all the offices have been closed, is you have a mobile notary that comes to you that walks you through and signs everything.
Right. Perfect. And then you're in the home stretch. Then you're going to get notified by your agent. At this point, there's a lot of parties involved. You know, your lender's on the line, and they're letting you know if you funded and whatnot. But close kind of just happens, and everybody celebrates at the end. And then you make arrangements for keys and all that fun, great stuff, and your move-in date and time. And hopefully the sellers are, you know, pretty much on their way out, but you know, you may have to give them a few extra hours or a half day or something to finish up packing up or whatever, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So what's interesting is at the end of the process, most people think that when they sign with the title company that, oh, everything's official. Nope. Everything's not official until it actually records with the county. And in order to record with the county, the title company has to receive funding from the lender. So once that money gets to the title company, they turn it into the county records the deed. Now it's official. And now it's officially your home. And then, yeah, as Nikki said, you need to, you know, your realtor will arrange to get the keys, you get the sign removed, you get the lockbox taken off, and then you take possession of your property. Yay. And then we all celebrate.
Yes.
To be honest, one of my absolute most favorite parts of the job is being able to hand somebody keys and say, we made it, we got through. And it's so satisfying. Like it's one of the most directly, like you feel this connection with somebody when you can hand them keys. I love it.
Absolute joy. Absolute unbridled happiness.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I think that's about it.
Yeah. I think we're good.
All right. Y'all have a great day.